Smile, meet, chat, join 4Networking.
So a year ago from today, I didn't think that I'd be able to give a presentation entitled 4Networking, Lord Sugar and I. But that's exactly what I get to do today, which is fantastic. And I put that application in a year ago, and I was sitting at home and I was thinking, right, now's the right time. I got into a lovely position with my business where it was running itself. My brother's in there, everything's working well. We're up to 10 members of staff and it's singing nicely. But what happened a couple of years beforehand wasn't as smooth as that. I had actually had a massive issue in my life, and I had 3 strokes at the age of 29 going into my 30th birthday. And I couldn't believe it. I got this whole sort of ramped up problem about, oh, I'm going to get 30 and I haven't been a millionaire yet and what's going on and all this thing's going on. And I suddenly end up in the stroke unit of a hospital after having 3 strokes. And I could not believe it. And I was lucky enough to not have any physical problems with it, apart from the fact that I went blind in my left eye. And I could now have over 30 injections in my left eye to get the vision back. But it doesn't show because it's all at the back of the eye. So aesthetically, I'm all right. But I can't see. And I said there that enough is enough and I'm going to go do something for me. And I put that application form in. And lo and behold, I was asked to go and do the interview. And what happens, 70,000 people put an application form into The Apprentice. And 70,000 business plans go in for The Apprentice. And then they filter through them. I'd hate to be that person, be a nightmare. And then they invite 10,000 people to actually do the face-to-face interviews in London, Manchester. I think there's one in Birmingham as well. And I was invited to the London one to be able to do the interviews. And you're put into a room, and they put 10 people into a room, all standing up. And they've got a couple of people sitting on a chair there, and they put numbers in front of you, and you have no idea what's going on. And they ask you to go give a 30-second presentation on why you should be Lord Sugar's business partner. And of course I'm thinking, oh God, crikey, everybody's panicking, and I'm there going, well, we've been doing this little 4Networking thing, and I know how to improv. So I gave the pitch of my life. And would you like to hear it? Yeah. Would you like to hear it? Yeah. Right, okay, so walk in there. Everybody's standing like that. I walk into the room, hey, confident. I can see her looking at me, and they choose it 1 to 7. I thought, right, I've got 7 goes until it's my turn. And she goes, right, we're going to start off with number 7. I'm like, shit. So I go, well, I'm a walking, talking business in a suit with the passion of a Frenchman, the drive of a German, and the stiff upper lip of a true English gent. I've got a business plan to die for. In fact, I've even written a 45,000-word book on the subject matter. I will win The Apprentice, and I will be Lord Sugar's business partner, so put me through to the next round. Boom. Done. And when I came to, and I thought, what the bloody hell just happened there? And it just came out. And the lovely thing about that and the way it works is that then you hear everybody else's, and there's people that go up, and obviously it's the typical one. It's like giving the 40 seconds after the person that's really good. We've all been there, haven't we? Yeah, you're just like, oh no. How do you follow that? That's what people say. And so there's a few people that are good, a few people are bad, and they're nervous, and they say, right, okay, 1, 7, 4, 2. Go with Chris. So Chris is one of the runners with a little mic, and he comes into the room. And then the rest of you go with Dave, who comes in that way. So Chris goes this way, Dave goes this way, and we all go filtering out the room. And we get to the lifts. And the lift, so Dave's sitting on this side of the lift, and Chris is on this side of the lift, sort of, you know, the bit veranda with all the sort of 6 lifts things there. And Chris presses up, and Dave presses down. And I'm thinking, I'm with Chris. We go up, and Dave's going down. And unless Chris is going to push me off the top of the building, this went all right. So went up to the next round, and we're at the next round of it, because it's a big building. You go up and up and up as you're going through this audition process. And the next round, it goes into a room. And there's a load of people sitting at desks, all production people. And it's a little bit like speed networking, or speed dating, but you go in, and then they go and have a 10-minute conversation. Now, who here's had 3 10-minute one-to-ones? So I'm thinking, yes, and this time it doesn't have to be a 2-way conversation. I'm in. So we go and have to have a talk about my business for 10 minutes with one of the production teams. So I'm just sort of like rapiding on, and got all the 4Networking stuff. So 10 minute, 10 minute, 10 minute, and it was 3. I was just like, this is ridiculous. And then of course Chris comes into the room, because there's a load of us in that room, and you hop, hop, hop. Chris comes into the room, Dave comes into the room. I'm like, hey Chris, he's like, you're with me. I'm like, see you later, Dave. And we're all Chris goes up, Dave goes down. I'm thinking, I'm liking Chris. And then we go and do another interview, but this time it's with the big bosses. So it's the big production guys interview, and also one of Lord Sugar's aides, that's what I want to say, in there as well. So he's a big business consultant for Sugar, and they do an interview about your business plan, etc. And that works really well. And then Chris comes in, Dave comes in. But we don't see Dave now because it's only me in the room. And Chris is like, hey, I'm like, hey. And you go up the lift again. And the final thing on that first audition day is, believe it or not, stand in front of a camera and give a presentation about your business plan for 10 minutes. And so, who's doing one of those today? So this is how 4Networking has been able to help me get onto the show. That's the end of the first show. Chris takes me down the lifts, because I was feeling a bit attached to Chris. I needed him to put me down to ground level. And then you do another 3 days of interviews, which are a little bit different, but I eventually get that phone call. And after doing almost a month of auditions, you get a phone call, and they say, we would like you to be on the show. And I go, yeah. And then I go, shit, how do I tell my brother, my family, my everything that I've actually gone to the show? Because I hadn't told anybody except for my wife that I'd been on the show, and or I'm trying to go onto the show. And it's a 4-week period between that phone call and actually going on the show. And we went actually in on the 28th of April. So you can sort of see round about now I put the application form in, the interviews happen next month, and then you go in there. So it hasn't even really been a year for me yet, which is really weird. So anyway, I get the phone call. I tell Tim, I'm just going, bye, I'm off. And he's like, all right, I look after the business. Because like he'd had to before, and this is where my long-suffering brother has always been able to look after me, where he's been able to look after me when I had the problems, when I'm in having the health problems, and he obviously looked after the business when we had these issues. And that sort of support has been so important for me to be able to grow the business and to get to where we are today. So anyway, go into the house, and a little bit of 4Networking starts coming through on these tasks, because you got, whoever hasn't seen it, there's 10 tasks, and in those 10 tasks you have to try, there's a winning team and a losing team. And I was able to win 8.5 tasks and only lose once and draw 1 task. If I had won that one that I drew, I would have been the most successful candidate ever to be on The Apprentice. But I'm actually the second in 11 series, which is fucking annoying. So you do these, but what I was really good at, and what I would accredit partly this to working with 4Networking, is understanding what the core part of winning a task is, getting right down to the nitty-gritty of how you win. So if it's this kids party task, everybody's talking about, let's put on this lovely kids party with fairies and gold dust and unicorns. I'm like, no, basically save less, spend less money, and basically upsell more products to the room. It's a money thing. You just sell more, don't spend so much money on glitter. Easy. And that's a little bit, well, maybe not the unicorns and glitter, but it's a little bit like running or being a group leader at 4Networking. You need to make sure that I very quickly can get to the bottom of how you make that group successful, because we're not all there to grow a 4Networking group. We're there because we're there for our businesses. And we all know that. And as a group leader, I know my team is all there as well. They very kindly are putting some of their personal time into helping to grow the group, because we know it's mutually beneficial if we have a really vibrant group. We all know that. But I don't come home from 4Networking and go, how do I grow 4Networking? I go, how do I grow your marketing? And so I went very quickly to the bottom of how you can grow a group, or how you can manage a group to make it successful. And that is by 2 visitors. And we all know if you have new visitors and new blood to your group every single time, it flourishes and you get more and more people that passport into your group, and the group gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you get right to the bottom of that, and you know that you've got a team of people that have all got different requirements and needs trying to help that, and you just set the tempo and say 2 visitors. Because 2 visitors bring passports bring more vibrance to the group, everybody's happy, and as long as people then go and do their jobs, it works perfectly. And you've got people that are different. You've got the organisational person within tasks on The Apprentice. So someone who's really organised, you give them the accounts. If someone's really organised, if a virtual assistant, you give them the ops role at 4Networking. If someone's a real good salesperson, real good marketer, you give them the marketing role at 4Networking. If someone's like that, you got to get them out flogging stuff when you're on The Apprentice. And it's about leadership as well. If you're a tart like me and you like standing up in front of people, you go for the group leader stuff, don't you? So I'm a group leader. But that's the project manager or the sub-team leader within the task on The Apprentice. So you can see how these sort of things work. And you wouldn't know that. Elle Stevenson is 21 years old. She has been in full-time employment. She'd never been self-employed and she was on The Apprentice. You've got David Stevenson, who was 24. Weirdly, they both got the same surname, but they're not related. But he was 24. He had run his own business, but only for a year. These guys have got talents, but it's raw, and being able to deploy them in the right areas. Elle was unbelievably good at building rapport with people. So you go to selling. David was ridiculously enthusiastic, so you got him pitching for these balloons. I don't know if anybody saw the pet show task, but this woman walked in with these balloons like this, and David's like, whoa, they're the best balloons, and these T-shirts with hamsters on. He's like, those are the best T-shirts with hamsters on. They were absolutely shit. They really were. And I'm walking around going, there's two teams. There's the sub-team that's selling the balloons and the hamster things. There's ones that's selling the high-end pet bed. And I'm like, I'm not wearing a T-shirt. I'm selling the dog beds. And David's like, T-shirts, I love them. So you deploy your assets in the right way. And that works in business, it works in 4Networking, and it worked for me on The Apprentice. And it nearly made me the most successful, but I'll settle with second. So anyway, we get to the end of The Apprentice, and you do 10 tasks, and then you go into the interview stage. So I'm going into the interview stage thinking I'm massively successful. On top of that, I was project manager twice and broke 2 records as project manager. The most sales ever to make on The Apprentice of all time, which is £4.2 million in a day. So we did that. And also, as project manager, we were the best marketing task Lord Sugar had ever seen for Western, the cactus shampoo, which was another one that I project managed. So I'm thinking I'm sailing here. Personally, I was the highest salesperson going into those last tasks as well. And I'm like, yes, I've got this nailed, no worries, I can't wait to go and dine out with Sugar, and it'll be fine. And then get to the interview stage, and this is when you realise that it's a TV show, it's not a business show. Last year, Lord Sugar invested in Climb Online, Mark Wright, who's a marketing agency, and he's done very well. He's been the most, in 1 year, he's already turned over more than anybody else who's won The Apprentice. He's done £1.5 million in a year, from 0 to 1.5, because it's in this industry. The margins, which I know, are very healthy in your marketing industry, because you're selling people's time. You can make good margins on it. So I know the money's there, the proof's already been in the pudding, and I'm offering him the web development, social media side, and Mark's doing the pay-per-click advertising side. And the two together would be a super agency, and he'd make a load of money and we'd all be happy. Sugar doesn't give a shit about money. He does not give a shit about money. I know that sounds really weird, but when you've got £1 billion and you're coming up to 70, you haven't got much time to spend £1 billion. There's not that many days. Think about that. It's almost millions per day that you have to spend, which is ridiculous. So he doesn't give a shit about that anymore, and he does care about reputation and legacy. And actually, if you think about it, that makes sense, because he can't go to the great British public and say, yeah, I'm just going into marketing, basically. I've got Richard from the marketing guys, I've had this Mark guy, because I know it makes me more money, and that's all I want in life. He can't do that. He needs to invest in, he needs to create a legacy, and he needs his reputation. So one, he has to come back to the British public and say, yes, we created these successes, and I'm investing in this cross-section of youthful people, and it's going to make sense for TV. But two, he also wants to invest in that salt of the earth, rags to riches type story. And Joseph, who, if you won that if you watched the story, who won it, he was expelled at school. He had all these problems, and it transpired that obviously that was the nice story. And you could just feel that when you went into that interview stage. It was almost a pre-done thing. Joseph was asked questions about Lord Sugar's book. And if you watched it, he was asked 3 questions about, who was Lord Sugar's first employee? What did he sell first? And I think there was another thing. And Joseph said, his father, and he sold car aerials, and everybody's like, whoa, Joseph answered these questions right. We all read the fucking book. You don't go on The Apprentice and don't read Lord Sugar's book. We know about Lord Sugar. Anybody who went into those final 5 could have answered those questions right. But I go in there, and they suddenly go, well, you're going to be setting up in competition with your brother. I was like, well, no, hang on. I wrote the book on this, okay? This isn't a business yet, okay? I've got this book that I'm giving to you, plus all the IP, intellectual property in this book is part of this business plan. You'll see it, it's already in there. And it's going to be able to be set up as a new business, and that's the whole point. We just do websites in the other company, and we can use that like we can use Climb Online to create a super agency. Oh no, you're going to be in competition with yourself. No, hang on, no, I've answered this one. Let me answer it one more time. I set it up separately, and it's fine because it's mine. And then they start talking about, oh, well, you don't need the money because your dad's rich. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, you know, why does that make me a less investable proposition? Like, we're talking about business plans. You know, my father grew up in a council estate and built the biggest oil company, independent oil distribution company there. That is actually a positive because I grew up in that household seeing how go from shit to great can go and learn from that. What better mentor than actually growing up? We lived in a caravan because we couldn't afford the mortgage for a couple of years, and then we had to go and live there. And now he bought his house off the Queen. I went through that as a kid, but no, okay, because that's a negative, because obviously there. Anyway, I'm not bitter, as you can tell. Fucking bastards. Not bitter at all. But I got to the stage that by the end of it, if you saw it, I was in the fetal position crying for my mum on the sofa. And actually, I became a bit of the pantomime horse, which was massively arrogant bastard, got taken down by small Linda plant in the interview stages, and it was funny, and that's fine, and I sort of felt it happening halfway through those interviews. And I think sometimes if you embrace these things and can deal with the downside, you can actually then take it forward and make it positive. And I get to speak to you guys about this great experience. And that's how 4Networking and Lord Sugar have come together. And what about me now is I'm able to be able to talk about my business. I'm able to be able to show now that I am actually capable of achieving what I said that I'm going to be able to do. And there's a digital wave coming to all of these businesses. Everybody thinks there's a technology bubble because people are spending billions on, you know, WhatsApp and all the rest of it. There is not. It's attention. And there is so much attention out there, and everybody's piling their time into Facebook and Twitter, whereas actually the youth of today is on Snapchat and also things like Periscope and all those sort of things. And that's the message that I get to now say with the platform that I've been able to create myself. And it's a gift that Lord Sugar didn't actually invest in me, because I get to still work with my brother who supported me for all of this, and I didn't sell him out, and I feel proud about that. And I get to build this business with him and make it great and show Lord Sugar that he missed out on a great thing. So I thank you all for listening to me, and appreciate the attention.
Smile, be chat, join 4Networking.